this is the third time I've sat down to record this episode of the show. I've been trying to do this for about a week, and I keep being dissatisfied with it. And up to this point, the source of my dissatisfaction was the fact that I've been worrying that either due to the nature of the first story coming up, I'm either being too hard on or not hard enough on Harmony Gold USA. And it is taken until this point for me to get to a point where I can basically say, to heck with it. I don't care anymore. I don't care what any of you people think. If you are looking for a rah go Harmony Gold session, turn off the show right now. If you are looking for somebody to just completely slag off on Harmony Gold and demand for them to burn and give up all the rights to Robotech and give up all the rights to Macross and everything, you can turn this off right now too. It's taken me exactly 1 week to work through all of this and basically decide I don't care what you think. All I can honestly do here is give you my honest opinion and present to you the facts as I understand them. And if you are okay with that, then let's go, guys. Webcasting from Southeast Kansas, I'm Jonathan Switzer, and this is another episode of This Robotech Thing. Well, let's just jump right into everything with both feet, because this thing's been going on for a couple of weeks now, and it is high time I addressed it. Let's get to the news. Not only have I shot a couple of versions of this episode over the last week, but I've been planning on doing a new episode for a while now. And I assumed when I sat down to do a new episode, the top story would be something like, the fact that Dynamite is actually gearing up to do another Robotech comic series after Robotech Voltron here wraps. It's going to be starting in November. Thing is, none of the details have been released, and they will be released within about a week's time at San Diego Comic-Con. Remember, this cover was actually put out there in advance of San Diego. So, around that time, or at least within the week, we will know what the new Robotech comic book series is going to be and what the creative team is going to be. So that's kind of exciting, but that's not our top story. It's not the top story. I also thought maybe the top story might be the fact that Robotech RPG Tactics is in the manufacturing phase right now, and parts are actually being shipped to Palladium Books as we speak. And hopefully we'll be seeing those coming to the Kickstarter backers before too long. Here's the thing. This has turned into a bit of a controversy, as Robotech-related things tend to do. More on that later on in the show. But that's not the top story either. The top story, as I'm sure you've heard by now, actually broke on the 4th of July, out of Anime Expo, out of the Robotech panel there. Harmony Gold saw how tremendously successful Palladium Books' Robotech RPG Tactics Kickstarter was last year, and decided, we can do that. and they started their own Kickstarter. It's been going on for about 2 weeks now. It's got about 19 days to go. It is to fund the production of a pilot episode for a brand new Robotech animated television series. Harmony Gold wants $500,000 to develop this show and produce this pilot. The Palladium Books RPG Tactics Kickstarter made 1.4 million. All they wanted was 80,000. And they made that in short order. And they wound up at 1.4 mil. Thing about the RPG Tactics Kickstarter, as I've said before, there's a very wide appeal to that. That appealed to the kinds of people who like that kind of game. It appealed to people who have a soft spot for those robot designs from the days of original Battletech. It has an appeal to folks who are fans of Macross and will just pretend the Robotech name isn't on there, who will hold their nose because the money's not going directly to Harmony Gold. It's going to a Harmony Gold licensee, but it's not going directly to Harmony Gold. They'll buy it. They'll build the little figurines. They'll enjoy the game, and they'll pretend that it doesn't say Veritech on there. It says Valkyrie, or they'll come up with their own way to play the game. And of course it will of course appeal to Robotech fans. But they're only a small subset of the people that game appeals to. Whereas a brand new Robotech series, you're sending money directly to Harmony Gold, which a lot of people have a problem with. Some understandably, some less understandably. But a lot of people have a problem with Harmony Gold. And of course, because it is Harmony Gold, they do not have any rights to use any of the Macross iconography in their animation. So, it's not going to look like that. It's going to be much like 1986's Robotech 2: The Sentinels. It's going to be much more Southern Cross and Mospita based. It's going to be something set in the late 2020s, early 2030s, to be sure. You're not gonna get in the Macross people. You're not gonna get in, a lot of the probably not the BattleTech people. You're not gonna get in the gaming people. You're gonna get in Robotech people. You're gonna get in people who are nostalgic for Robotech, and it limits things. What also limits certain things is the fact that because it's an animated production, the barrier to entry to get the finished product is much lower. At this time, $30 gets you a digital download of the first episode of this pilot, of the thing that is being produced with this money. Whereas with the RPG Tactics Kickstarter, you had to contribute $70 to get the end product, the boxed game. So you get a bunch of people who just want the end product. You're looking at 30 over here, you're looking at 70 over here. Of course, the RPG Tactics Kickstarter is going to, presumably make more money because, in order to get in there, you need more money. And on top of that, the add-ons are much more compelling. The add-ons for the RPG Tactics Kickstarter game are going to be more game pieces, more Destroids, more battle pods, Quidlin Rows, Zentradi infantry guys, the experimental stuff, the Orgus-looking Battloid, the YF4, other sorts of funky variations. The resin kit with the VF1D arm with Minmay, and the fish head, sort of goofy stuff like that. The SDF1, all of that kind of extra stuff to enrich your gaming experience. Whereas the add-ons with the Robotech Academy Kickstarter are like sweatshirts and soundtracks for a show you haven't seen yet, an art book for a show you haven't seen yet. There are some good ones in there, to be fair. There is an early bird copy of the long gestating 30th anniversary soundtrack, with even more of the Robotech music that hasn't been commercially released yet, as well as the music that Scott Glasgow arranged for the Love Live Alive project. I personally would like a nice copy of that. So I would genuinely be interested in that. Or the craziest thing I've seen so far is the $100 canvas print of the wraparound cover for 1984's Macross #1 from Comico, signed by Carl Masek's widow, Sevilla Masek, who did all of the art for the 1984 Macross #1 comic. That's a kind of a cool looking piece. It's a little rough around the edges, but at the same time, it's I've always really liked the colors on it, and while the scale's sort of off, it is a striking piece. I do genuinely like that cover. It's not it's not the best piece of art in the world, but it's cool. It's a cool memento, of the history of this franchise in the U.S. So that's but at the same time, I can see where that's a much less compelling add-on for this project than the RPG Tactics add-ons were for that. So there's all sorts of reasons why that's not going to. I really don't think that's going to reach the heights of the RPG Tactics Kickstarter. Now, at the same time, a lot of these higher level pledge levels have sold out because one thing that Harmony Gold has been offering folks is the opportunity to be animated in the show. And so you've got these $5,000 or whatever levels that have sold out because people look at that opportunity, and as Robotech fans, they go, "Man, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool." No, I mean, I've gone in for 70, just to get the Blu-ray for completeness' sake, and because presumably, this should be. I would hope this is gonna, be cool looking enough to warrant being on Blu-ray in high definition. We might see. We might see. That's the thing. That's the thing about this being a Kickstarter. You don't know if Harmony Gold has a plan B for this, and if they don't reach their funding level, then they have to regroup and go with plan B or try again. Now there have been Kickstarters that have done that. There have been Kickstarters where it failed the first time, and they basically chalked this up to a promotional cycle and tried again. So I don't know if they're planning on doing that or what. I would assume right now they're just really hoping that they hit the mark this time. So what do we know about Robotech Academy so far? Beyond the fact that they're doing a Kickstarter for it, beyond the fact that that's how it's being funded, and that's the level of funding they're hoping to get to produce this. For one thing, we know we have a list of creators, I have a list of people who are associated with it. Of course, Tommy Yoon's in there because he's the guy at the top of the Robotech food chain at the moment. He's still running the show. But writing on handling the writing chores, handling the screenwriting chores, is Ford Riley, the fellow who did the finished script for Robotech: The Shadow Chronicles. I've interviewed Ford. I've lunched with Ford. He is a Robotech fan. I wouldn't say the mediocrity of Robotech: The Shadow Chronicles is entirely his fault. He's writing from a story by Tommy Yoon. Here he's not so much. He's been employed repeatedly by Disney. He's apparently done work for them that they were happy with. I would assume his enthusiasm for Robotech could be much more properly harnessed on this particular project, I think. So I'm happy to see him on here. He's a guy who does have genuine enthusiasm for the franchise. So that's always good to see. Good on him. I'm happy to see him again. Scott Glasgow, another guy I'm very happy to see again. He did the score for Robotech: The Shadow Chronicles, and more recently he did some arrangements of classic Robotech music for the opening to Robotech Love Live Alive, which I really liked, some of which I used on the 29th anniversary special back in March. I really like those reorchestrations of the Robotech music. They were really cool to me. They were a nice treat. I was quite happy to see him back for that. And thus, I'm happy to see him back for this. Considering this is a series, I wonder if he's going to be doing much more of a mix of weaving in older Robotech themes, and doing some original material for this. I think that would be appropriate for this project. We'll see. Then the group Digital Art Chefs, are handling the design. I expect I expect character design, possibly some mechanical design. These folks are working right now on Robotech Voltron. I expect among their number is one Elmer Damaso, the penciler on Robotech Voltron. He's out of the Philippines, because some of the character design work we've seen looks very, very much like the character art in Robotech Voltron, which is credited to Damaso. Now, I like his art style. The artwork is one of the best things about Robotech Voltron. The real question to me is, they've got drawing chops. Do they really have the necessary design chops to do something that will live up to the Robotech name? You have to remember, going back to especially Macross and Mospeada, you've got some seriously skilled design people on those two shows. Our Digital Art Chef's going to be up to the task on a new Robotech production. We'll see. Character design's looking okay. It's looking solid. But we'll talk about mechanical design in a little bit. And then the one that jumped out at me, and the one that I think jumped out at a lot of people as really Creavision, the guys who most recently were working on Valkyrie Project, the 3-part fan film, part 3 of which was never released because Harmony Gold hit him with a cease and desist. And Creavision did what they could to try to mitigate the damage. Because Harmony Gold aren't the bad guys here, you know. And Harmony Gold's been sort of, or at least Tommy Yoon, the guys who the other guys who publicly speak for Harmony Gold have been trying to sort of, it wasn't us, it wasn't our fault. And now I think we see why, because bless Creavision, man. These guys apparently are blessed because a fan work that they could never make any money off of, got judo thrown into a paying gig from Harmony Gold. They're responsible for the SDF3 model that appears in the original Kickstarter video, which looks tremendous. I love the way that thing looks. I am so hyped to see a really nice 3D CG model of that old 1986 Sentinels SDF3 design. And they're apparently also responsible for the Academy base on the Martian moon of Phobos that ends that Kickstarter video. So they're apparently responsible for the bulk of the CG that you see there, if not all of it. And that it doesn't look half bad. Some people have pointed out some minor problems with the shot that ends the sequence there, but kinks can be worked out. We're not going to be seeing a pilot for again, assuming they actually deliver on time, another year. Again, assuming the Kickstarter actually gets funded. But this explains what Creavision did. This explains the sort of face saving that was going on, and at the same time, hey, I'm happy for Creavision. They're getting to work on Robotech, and they're getting paid for it. That is that ain't a bad deal. That ain't a bad deal. It's just a shame that the whole thing kind of went down in kind of a sour way, a sour, mealy-mouthed, kind of dodgy kind of way. It couldn't have gone down any other way, unfortunately, given the circumstances. But the key figure here that I haven't brought up is the late Carl Macek, who passed away back in 2010. And was apparently working on this for Harmony Gold in 2008, and presumably up to his passing in 2010, because that was the 25th anniversary year. And I could see them having wanted to, if this was an ongoing concern, if this was something that was ongoing, I could sort of have seen them planning, because remember, Carl Macek was showing up to the Robotech Dog and Pony shows at Anime Cons, that year. You sort of think, oh, he's showing up, for the just because of the anniversary. Well, if he was working on this, at the time, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Maybe they were building up to an announcement of this back then. Then again, maybe not. Harmony Gold has, long said, we don't really want to do a series. You can't really do a series without money from a toy company. You can't really do a series without money from a TV station. You can't really do a series without this, that, the other. And, I can see how the Kickstarter kind of is, them kind of trying to dodge doing all that. Certainly they presumably have the cash on hand to do it, regardless, but, if you can avoid using your own money, Anyway, but Masek was actually tinkering with some of the ideas as far back as the 1990s. The villain of the piece, a group called the Children of Zor, were apparently going to be worked into a comic book series that he was going to do for Malibu back in the mid-90s. Then Malibu stopped publishing Robotech comics when they dissolved the Eternity imprint, and I'm sure Academy Comics couldn't have afforded a Robotech comic series by Carl Macek. But there's a bit of footage that Harmony Gold's put out there of Carl at a convention in the 1990s talking about the Children of Zor. And what it sounds like from what Macek says, they were going to be a group made up of, much like the Sentinels, the different races that were touched by the Flower of Life, courtesy of Zor and his seeding missions. As he searched for a planet where they could grow more flowers of life. You have all of these planets in the local group, the worlds of the Sentinels, where Zor visited. Zor tried to cultivate the flower of life, and in every case, it didn't quite turn out the way he had hoped. It didn't quite provide, the perfect flowers that grew on Optera. They might, have grown up as, under these different conditions as something slightly different. Not something that could be processed into protoculture. Now, the concept for Robotech Academy as it stands right now seems to involve, these Children of Zor, but is, of course, focused on a new generation of characters. Which, if you go back to some of my earlier videos here, some of the earlier episodes of this Robotech thing, is exactly the show that I've been saying Harmony Gold needs to make. Do a new show focused on a new young generation of characters in about the Sentinels era, where the classic characters take a back seat, but they're still present. One of the earliest character designs that was released was Rolf Emerson from the Robotech Masters era, from Southern Cross. And, there he is, there's his character design. He'll apparently make an appearance. Somehow I doubt he's going to make a regular appearance because of the premise. And, because he has to get back to the Southern Cross era. He has to, he has to go back there and, get shoved off on the TriStar and die on the Robotech Masters flagship. He's got things to do. Someone who doesn't really have a lot of other things to do is the recently announced Rick Hunter. It was announced within the last day or so that Tony Oliver would be coming back as Rick Hunter, as the Admiral in the new show. I don't know if he's going to be a continuing presence, or if he's going to be on the SDF-3 and basically put in a token appearance, much in the same way he did in the Shadow Chronicles. We'll see. I am hoping to see a character design for him by the end of the Kickstarter, because what I'd love to see is basically a slightly tweaked version of the Sentinels design with the long black coat and everything, because I like that design. Again, we'll see. But these characters will be taking a backseat to a new young generation of characters. And the story is that these Children of Zor attack the Robotech Academy. And the Academy students decide we're going to fight back. And they take over the Academy, and they spacefold the Academy, which is basically housed in the entire moon of Phobos, the Martian moon of Phobos. They're spacefolding the entire moon on this journey across the cosmos to hunt down the children of Zor, which I presume does basically wind up giving us this tour of the greater Robotech universe that Sentinels would have done. So it is, in fact, sort of a Sentinels in miniature with a younger cast. You tell this to me, somebody who has such a soft spot for the Sentinels concept, for the Sentinels aliens, for the 86 Sentinels designs, and then you show me that awesome CG model of the SDF-3, and you show me a slide which has Tyrol and Phantoma, and suddenly I'm getting all hyped up for this. I'm getting all pumped for this. They're not calling it Sentinels, but it kind of is Sentinels. And, that is precisely the show that I was asking for. That's precisely the show I wanted to see. And so, yeah, you can take your Harmony Gold hate and go jump in the lake, because I'm going to be all for this, even if I'm not necessarily certain that the parties who are going to be responsible for this can make the best possible version of this show. I want to see what version of this show these people can make. I'm curious. If they can make a solid, professional-looking version of this show that is exciting, that isn't laden down with sort of the unwillingness to be awesome that seemed to pervade Robotech: The Shadow Chronicles, if they can get over that, if enough of the loopiness and weirdness that would always be in play with something Carl Macek was associated with, if that shines through, if this truly winds up being our buddy Ford Riley cleaning up and polishing Carl Macek's stuff with minimal interference from Tommy Yoon, we might have something here. Certainly there is enough talent here that I think some qualities, some cool stuff is going to shine through. You got Greg Snegoff on voice direction. He's around. I'm sure he'll find a character or two to play. You've got Oliver. We've seen a character design for Zor, for the Robotech Master Zor, for the guy who first drew Protoculture from the Flower of Life. Does this mean Paul St. Peter is going to be in here? I hope Paul St. Peter is going to be in here. You got Emerson. I assume they're going to try to get Michael McConaughey to show up. So you've got these voice actors who we know are solid, who are good for it. Glasgow, we've got Crayvision CG so far. It looks pretty decent, and I'm sure they'll render out some solid looking stuff given the fact that we got a year to go. I can't help but think this could be something. The big question at the end of the day, given we're talking a Kickstarter, that is only at $160,000, with 19 days to go, and isn't going to be funded unless and until it reaches $500,000. should you contribute to this? And to answer that, I would say answer these two questions. Question number one, do you have any reason to not want to give Harmony Gold your money? Like, for instance, do you hate them? Do you not trust them? Do you have a personal problem with them? I know plenty of people who have genuine personal problems with Harmony Gold. And, I'm certain they're not contributing anything to this. They're going to sit back and see how it goes. And I'm sure, if it is funded, they will, one way or another, wind up watching this thing. But they're not going to give Harmony Gold any of their money. More importantly, for most of you, I think, did you like the Shadow Chronicles okay? Or like me, are you willing to sort of, take the Shadow Chronicles and go, okay, gonna set that aside. We're gonna call that a learning experience, okay? I'm gonna call that a learning experience. Just show me what you got now. Having completed that, back in 2006, 2007, show me what you can do now. Show me what you've learned from that. We're going to set Love Live Alive aside entirely because, that's sort of a weird clip show amalgamation of different things. That doesn't count. I don't know if I've said this out loud to everybody, but, I was always sort of thinking, okay, Shadow Rising is going to be their last chance with me. If Shadow Rising does anything to tick me off, I am writing this incarnation of Harmony Gold off entirely. I'm just not gonna care anymore. I'm going to take a step back here. I'm not going to do things like this anymore. I'm just gonna I'm going to enjoy my DVDs and I'm going to look over across the room at the disc of that show and go, that was it. That was the last straw. And now with Shadow Rising, sitting on the back burner, and this being Harmony Gold's next production, this is now the test. This is, especially considering they're asking us for money, I'm going to put my money down, I'm going to give them my money, and hope to God they do great things with it. Or at least good things with it. Solid things, things that, when I sit down to watch it, aren't embarrassing. Things that will, feel of a kind with the original Robotech television series. Things that won't look out of place, when placed in that continuum. If they can do that, if they can make something that, if they don't embarrass themselves, if they make something solid, if they make something entertaining, something, that when I get to the end of a half hour, I go, yeah, no, that's reasonable Robotech. I'll be happy. I'll think, okay, that was money well spent. That was money well spent. And if they embarrass themselves, if they poop their pants here, I'll know better than to ever do that again. They will have lost my trust. So that's question one. Question one is, do you think you can trust Harmony Gold with your money? Question number two is, does this Robotech production, does this show sound like something you'd be interested in? For me, the answer is wholeheartedly yes. Yes, it sits right with me. But at the same time, if it doesn't to you, well, you don't have to give them any of your money. So, I mean, I think that really is the 2 points to think about. Do you trust Harmony Gold? And does this sound to you like a cool Robotech idea? And if it fails on either of those counts, don't give them your money, and you can sit back and see if the new comic is more up your alley, or get your copy of the RPG Tactics game and sit tight and wait and hope and pray that they get Masters out the door sometime next year, which is also something I'm doing. Yeah, let's move on to a couple of other things real quick, because I really don't want this thing to wind up being like 90 minutes or something. First up, U.S. anime DVD publisher Discotek, best known for their amazing array of 80s and 90s anime that they have licensed, when probably nobody else would. Nobody else would be releasing all of Fist of the North Star in the 20 teens. Nobody else would be releasing Space Pirate Captain Harlock in the 20 teens. The original TV series. We're not talking the fancy CG thing that hasn't reached our shores yet. Nobody else would be reissuing Golgo 13 the Professional, the 80s movie. The Kashan Robot Hunter OVAs that Masek dubbed in the 1990s. Lily Cat. No, nobody else would be relicensing frickin' Lily Cat. They are also relicensing and releasing next year Super Dimension Century Orgus. I'm so happy to see Discotek licensing Orgus. I'm also so happy to see that, like those print-on-demand discs, they will include the 17 episodes out of, I think Orgus is 39, 17 episodes dubbed into English by U.S. renditions, the same folks who had dubbed Super Dimension Fortress Macross 2. It's not a great dub, but it has its charms. I watched all of that dubbed in English. I had all of the Orgus tapes that they published before they went under. That's the reason that they didn't dub the rest of the show. They went out of business before they finished it. And I also expect that Orgus probably wasn't a very big seller for them either. But I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching all those episodes dubbed again, and then the rest of the show subtitled, of course. Because I've only ever seen that far into it. It's a fun dub. It's not great, but differentiated idioblast. Moving on. I said we were going to talk a little bit more about the Robotech RPG Tactics game. Here's the deal. Palladium has sort of figured out when they're going to be able to get the games to everyone, based on when they will be getting all of the stuff that goes in the box. Unfortunately, this is apparently going to coincide with Gen Con Indy in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is where they want to launch the game. Now, start getting games into people's hands. So, understandably, a lot of the Kickstarter backers are not thrilled with this, because they don't want to have their games in transit in the mail while there are people in Indianapolis buying the game. Now, I see where both parties are coming from. The Kickstarter backers, like myself, think that they were sold a bill of goods here. they were told you'll be, if you back this, you'll be the first to get this game. And now that's not going to be the case. Whereas Palladium Books, who didn't see any of this coming, who thought they'd have a game out last Christmas, and now it's going to be much closer to this Christmas, they want to launch as soon as they can at as big an event as they can. And this is the big one. This is one of the biggest gaming conventions there is. So, they're between a rock and a hard place. And they have asked that all backers go onto the comments thread for their last update and, say a simple yes or no, whether or not the backers will allow them to sell the game at Gen Con. If a majority of the backers, as they tally up, say no, they won't do it. Me, I said yes. Because I want this to be as successful a thing as it can possibly be. I want my Southern Cross sets. And I want them to go through so many different sets and different add-on packs. So many. That they start to have to design new stuff and dig into, like, Sentinels units. I want them to get to a point where I can have 3D representations of the ugly, awkward Sentinels Destroids. That would make my heart sing. So, yeah, I want them to, go on, go nuts, have fun, sell it, sell it at Gen Con. But I can understand the other perspective. I can totally see where those people are coming from. They believe that, they believe that they've been lied to. It's a bad situation. It's a bad situation. Leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Speaking of things that leave bad tastes in mouths, we're gonna move on to an installment of RoboJunk Get, where I got some things from about 10 years ago that aren't like great things. They're kind of cute. They're kind of neat, but one of them left a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth. Take a look at this. In previous installments of RoboJunk Get, I've taken a look at production stuff, vintage stuff, import stuff, but we haven't taken a whole lot of looks at stuff from the last 10 years or so, mostly because a lot of that stuff I either didn't find interesting or honestly bought at the time. But today, we are going to look at something I completely overlooked when it was originally released about 11 years ago. And that's a couple of these guys here. The Robotech New Generation I-Men figures by Toynami. Now, the reason I overlooked these back in the day is because I kind of got burned by some Medicom Japanese Kubrick figures. I picked some of those up from Armored Trooper Votoms and Mazinger Z, and they were just infuriating little things. And really, I kind of look at these figures as things you get because they're not gonna make real figures of these things. But at the same time, these things, like so many things, have been going up in value on eBay in a really stupid way. And so I figured if I was going to get any at a reasonable price, I had better get them now. So these were like 20 bucks a piece on eBay. I've seen them go for as much as 50, which is just stupid. Mind you, the new generation ones I think did have maybe a lower production run, or at least are a little harder to find than the Macross ones. I really wish they'd done Masters ones, but this being Toonami, that really wasn't in the cards. Speaking of cards, let's take these guys off of the card and see how the construction is. Because that was my real complaint about Medicom's stuff. The construction just wasn't any good. Come on, Scott. Come on. One thing I really like about the Scott here is, the colors are really nice. That is really the thing that drew me to this particular guy. Let's see. Can we turn his little head? Yes. Yeah, we can. Yeah, and it sort of wiggles around. Okay. Yeah. Sort of ball jointed shoulders. No, this is decent. This is pretty decent as this sort of stuff goes. Pretty solid. Pretty solid, not bad. Yeah. Don't like how he has no neck and his mouth is, whoa, hey. His mouth is really low on his face, but, yeah, that's not the worst thing in the world. Let's see, the Alpha Fighter. Oh, the Alpha Fighter is actually pretty cool. Again, yeah. Pretty decent construction, guns in his hand, a little wiggling in his hand, but yeah. I'm gonna take the gun set aside, just look at the figure a bit. One of my big problems with those Kubricks was that a lot of the parts, like this stuff that builds up the legs and the arms, was like a soft plastic and came off really easy. It was badly glued on there. This is all hard plastic, so that makes it much better. Mind you, the legs don't go together very well. I wonder how that works with the magnetic feet when you use the coins as the bases, because yeah, that is something that was kind of interesting here. Is it's got these little coins here. You can see right there. It's Scott, based on the artwork on the blister. There's the Alpha Fighter, based on the artwork on the blister. Let's take those off of there. Let's see, so it's Toonami. I'm in totally cubular figures. Oh my god, that's horrible. That is really horrible. But yeah, Robotech, Scott Bernard. Number 31, and you take the figure and yeah, magnetic feet pick up the coin quite nicely. So yeah, that's cool. It's kind of a neat idea. you know, making these little coins and using them as the bases. Yeah. Oh man, even not terribly flat on there, it sticks pretty well. Not like great, but it's sticking well enough that it is denying gravity. Yeah. So we'll give him his little gun and let it flop around a bit. Oh. I don't think these are worth the 20 bucks I spent, but they're sure as hell not worth the $50 that some people want for them. Sure as hell not. Let's work in the Alpha Fighter. Let's work in the Alpha Fighter. Let's get that out of there. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot much more time on this. Oh man, look at that. Yeah, this one looks a little worse for wear. I think this one needs to be cleaned off a bit. Or, ooh, these are tarnished. There. Let me see. Man, that is that's interesting. These coins are not looking good. They were like this in the package, man. I'm gonna see if I can clean that off later. Oof. Well, that's unfortunate. As are the figures. Yeah, it's cute. Yeah. Yeah, these are a lot better than those horrible Kubricks. Yeah, a lot more solid. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. That ankle joint's a little weird. Let's see. It feels like I'm gonna. Spoke too soon. Rook's got a bad ankle there. Yeah, there's a ball joint in there. That ball joint seems a bit stuck. Yeah. Alpha Fighter. Let's see. Is this Alpha Fighter? It's Alpha Fighter. Holds its gun a lot better. No, actually it doesn't. Wow. No, these are this is horrible. Yeah, a lot better. Every time I say that, it suddenly starts flopping around a bit. So, yeah, Magnets are still good. But bad ball joint in the right ankle and some tarnished coins leave me feeling kind of bad about picking this one up. But yeah, them's the perils of ordering stuff on eBay. On the other hand, Scott, pretty decent. Oh, can't complain. Love the colors. No, and that set looked good. Oh well, that was a roll of the dice. That was something I didn't think I was ever gonna, pull the trigger on, but turned out 50-50 here, eh? Yeah, as long as this ball joint, I can get that sorted and see about the state of these coins here. Yeah,
It'll at least be a nice display piece.
In the end, um, I twisted this ankle here, and it did unstick. Now, anytime I rotate it, what is that? Looking from the bottom, it's clockwise. It does feel like the plastic is twisting. If I turn it the other direction, it does turn the ball joint. So I just need to remember not to turn it the other way. Meanwhile, what's wrong with the coins isn't just something that I can wash off. It is, there is something wrong with the finish. It looks like it is sort of eating away, which does mar what would otherwise be, a cute-looking, block person, rook on the surface there. It looks like she's got some kind of a disease. So, I'm just glad I didn't spend $50 on this. It'll make for a reasonable display piece, in the collection. You can go back here with the things from the generation of Robotech that you're not from. We're just gonna finish out by talking about Robotech Voltron very briefly, because I've done full-scale reviews of these first 3 issues. Issue 4 came out the Wednesday before last, and I will have a full and proper review of that up hopefully sometime this week, if I can make the time. What I'm going to say about Robotech Voltron is, in short, it is very nice to look at. Elmer Damaso, the artist, and the team of colorists working on this, have produced some very lovely artwork of the classic Robotech characters in Mecha and the classic Voltron characters and Mecha. Everything looks like it did back in the 1980s, is wonderfully rendered. The colors are magnificent. It is a delight for the eyes. Unfortunately, the first 2 issues are saddled with abysmal dialogue, and the actual crossover is totally a crossover by numbers. There is a sort of dimensional singularity thingy-mabobber. It's a comet in this story. It's some sort of a comet, that causes some sort of dimensional breach. Elements from one universe are cast into another. Elements from the other universe are cast into the other. It's kind of like the premise of Macron 1, except, with Robotech and Voltron, as opposed to, crossing over Go Shogun and Strungle. It's, so much time is spent setting this up that you don't get a lot of time having fun with the crossover premise. 1 and 2 are all setting this thing up, and then 3 and 4 are so far having fun with the crossover premise, and it's not even a whole lot of fun. It's, oh, look, this is how my universe is different from your universe. Oh, it's, like I said, it's crossover by numbers. It's the most obvious thing. And, you take this obvious thing, and then you have the worst dialogue, the most painful dialogue. There is dialogue between Roy Fokker and T.R. Edwards in issue number 2 that makes my skin crawl. It is so bad. Almost mercifully, that page got completely screwed up in the print edition, and was only made right in the digital edition. This distracts from how bad it is in print, when you have an actual production screw up that makes the page unintelligible. But mercifully, on the last page of issue 2, Bill Spangler, bless him, Bill Spangler comes along to handle dialogue. And issue number 3 is originally scripted by Tommy Yoon, and clearly Spangler's come in and done a dialogue polish, and he might have reworked some things to the in the panel continuity. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Issue 4 reads like it was plotted by Tommy Yoon, and Bill Spangler actually did the full script, because it is a much more complete feeling issue. It is a high point for the series, and it's still not great because it's still saddled with this premise. But the character dialogue and the character interaction, feels a lot more right. You've got a scene between Captain Gloval and Dr. Lang that feels like something out of Spangler's Return to Macross from 20 years ago. Likewise, there is an interaction between Fokker and Edwards that feels like their rivalry from Return to Macross 20 years ago. It's a bit hackneyed, but it's hackneyed in the same way that those comics were. Issue 4 really feels like a throwback to those days. And as somebody who has a soft spot again for those days, even when it wasn't, great, I'm charmed at least by issue 4. The problem with issue 4 is the artwork is a little bit weaker, I think, than the first 3. Issue 1, and especially issue 1, has a certain polish to it that is missing when you get to issue 4. And issue 4 came out like 2 weeks late, so I expect the schedule slipping a bit. Who knows when we'll see 5? Yeah, it might be a bit. It might be, on time. It might be a bit late. I don't know. We'll see. But my recommendation to you, the viewer at home, really is, don't buy all of this. I really would advise against buying these all at cover price, $3.99 an issue. I would probably, wait for all of them to come out and get them cheaper digitally, or wait for the trade paperback and flip through that, because it's almost worth it for the artwork. It really is almost worth it for the artwork, because Damaso and the guys at Digital Art Chefs do put together a very pretty book that does a great job respecting the iconography of these shows. Everything looks right. Everything, and the actual and the flow of it. The panel to panel continuity, the action is very well handled. Elmer Damaso actually has a pretty good handle on comic book storytelling. It is a shame that the story being told isn't better. And I am kind of hoping that when the trade paperback comes along, much in the same way that the Prelude to the Shadow Chronicles trade paperback corrected some of the coloring in issue 4, I'm kind of hoping that with the trade paperback of Robotech Voltron, they slip a little money Bill Spangler's way and have him tweak some of the dialogue for those first 2 issues, because Ooh, the is just embarrassingly bad. And the thing that bugs me the most about it really is the fact that I've read other comics written by Tommy Yoon without another writer credited, and they weren't this bad. I have to think either Tommy is really rusty with dialogue, you know, or maybe he had a good editor on those earlier books, and maybe somebody he would actually let look over his his dialogue, and who would offer some pointers, because I don't remember him being this bad. But yeah, unless you are a completist like me, avoid the single issues. Wait for the trade, flip through it at the store if you can, and if you think it's worth it, just for the art, just for the representations of these beloved characters, go for it, because it really is a lovely looking series. And if you do have a soft spot like I do for Bill Spangler's work on Robotech, it might be worth it to pick this up, to get to that point where it really does start, feeling like, some of his older Robotech work. Issue 4 really feels like a Bill Spangler comic. 3, not so much. 3, it's pretty clear that Tommy has the wheel, and Spangler is just sort of sitting there, with the map, telling him, no, you don't want to go this way. You want to go that way. This is how we're going to get there. I think that's it. I think that's everything, Robotech worth talking about at this particular juncture. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching. You can, of course, comment here on YouTube below, but because I don't have Google Plus, attached to this account, I will not be answering there. If you do have any questions you would like me to answer, feel free to ask them at the Tumblr blog, thisrobotechthing.tumblr.com. I am always happy to answer questions there. I might not get to it right away, but once enough of them stack up, I do wind up often spending an afternoon just blazing through them. You can also pester me on Twitter at CaptainJLS. And with that, this is Captain JLS signing off, guys. Have a good one.
You will all receive your orders tomorrow, but until then, I want you to think of just one thing: Robotech.